Hello again, it's Monster Forge, another comic book review. And like the past two reviews that I've done, this is another Alterna comic. Alterna, in case you hadn't seen the other reviews, which you should go back and watch those right now. Alterna Comics is a independent comic book publisher that publishes all of their stuff on newsprint. So it feels like old comic books from back in the day, but this is nothing like any old comic book from back in the day. This is issue 1 of Blood Realm. It's part 1 in a 3-part limited series, but when this limited series is over, the story doesn't end because this is actually part 1 of a 9-part story. It's just broken up into 3 small series. Comic book was written and illustrated by Robert Geronimo, and it was lettered by Thomas Maurer. And this book is insanely good. I fell in love with this comic book before I even bought it because of the cover. The cover alone sold me on this book. And so I was like, I was liking Alterna's comic books anyway, and at $1.50, you can't go wrong. But anyway, I saw the image of the cover, and I was like, I got to have that. I mean, if nothing else, I just want that cover. And as previews started coming out and Robert Geronimo started teasing stuff on Twitter and all, you saw more pictures from the interior of this book, and it is gorgeous. The artwork is... I haven't seen comic books that look like this, not just this page, but the other stuff in here as well. I haven't seen comic books that look like this in the mainstream. I don't know. This is more like an album or something. But anyway, it is black and white with the exception of the color red. Red is the only color that's in the book. You have, the white of the paper, the black of the black ink, and the red. And it is super effective to create a really, really creepy story. And, a little bit about the story. It's a, high fantasy type story. Sword and sorcery, magic and goblins and demons and such. It's the story of the last kingdom of men, the kingdom of Vorogoth. And Vorogoth's people are they're about to be raided by this group of creatures called the Satrians. And the Satrians are like goat men. And evidently they had a bad history with humans, and they were kind of conquered by humans at one point, and now they have come back in numbers. And the main thing that's brought ahead to it is that there's a leader of the Satrians called Gorn, and he is pretty darn horrific. But this is Lycurgus. He is a warrior, a great warrior, and the queen calls for a warrior to save her daughter, the princess, because the princess has become ill, and the only thing that'll save her is the blood of these creatures called the old beasts, ancient, gigantic, titans, that their blood will heal her, holy blood. And so this Lycurgus comes forth, and he slays one of the beasts, gives her the blood, she's revived, and he takes her hand in marriage, and they become, they will eventually become the king and queen, except... there's a price to pay for killing one of the old beasts. And in his quest to do so, he has expanded the empire. He's done all these things in the name, but he can't escape the price that he'll have to pay for slaying one of the old beasts. And it's not pretty at all. In his absence, the Satrians come back, and they are rallied together by their leader. This is the Satrians. They're like goat men. but their leader is General Gorn, and he is just absolutely horrific. He's who you see on the cover, of course, with his big blade hand. And he basically comes in and he leads the Satrians to take back the world. And so humanity has kind of all pulled back to this one last kingdom, Vorgoth. And at the darkest hour, the queen calls the Sisters of Silence to come, and they will go on a journey to find this ancient relic, this artifact that will allow them to defeat Gorn and his people. I can't really tell you much beyond that because I don't want to spoil anything, but I will say, let's see, this is gorgeous. The artwork is simple. It's powerful, though. It's very expressive. It does exactly what it's supposed to do, and I love the simplicity of it. And really, if you look at it, it's really not that simple. There's a lot going on, a lot of details going on, and all I can say is Robert Geronimo is awesome. This book makes me think of back in the day, back in the 80s, the comic books would run these ads for Dungeons and Dragons, the game, and they had this this ongoing storyline with the little characters like a knight and a cleric and an elf and a wizard and all their adventures and stuff like that. And you got a little piece of it each time. The artwork kind of reminds me of that. It's more sophisticated than a lot of the artwork in those, but it was that simple, very expressive artwork. And the subject matter, it's kind of Dungeons and Dragons type of thing. But, you get the idea sort of that this might not be a tale of the past of this world. It might be of the future of our world. I don't know. I think he said before that it's a different world, but I'm not sure. But one way or the other, it doesn't matter because it's just a really cool story. I watched a live stream with Peter Samedi, who is the publisher of Alterna Comics, the founder of Alterna Comics, and he has you should follow Alterna Comics on YouTube. They have great live streams where they talk to the writers and artists. And he had a sit down with Robert Geronimo, and it's amazing. He gave so much background into this stuff, and he didn't really give away anything, but he did definitely tease some stuff coming, and it's just like, I'm very excited. This is I can't tell you too much about this book because I don't know a whole lot myself because it's just the beginning. You're kind of just getting a lay of the land with this book, but it leaves it in such a way that you want more, and you're going to get 8 more parts of more. I highly recommend this book. The guys at Alterna are fantastic. The publisher is great. They really seem to appreciate the customers. They really seem to have a good work ethic there. And creators like Robert Geronimo. Robert Geronimo is a really cool guy. He's super nice. I mentioned something about how much I liked his book, and he just was, super nice about it. Real sweet guy. And he's such a craftsman. Like, when he was selling copies of his book at cons and stuff, he's got statues that he's made. He sculpted these little sculptures of the Sisters of Silence, which are the main characters as the story goes forward. Made like unique packaging to sell the books in and all. He's made cards that go along with, the book. There's a lot packed in this little issue. I say little issue. This is like a standard 22-page comic book for $1.50. Good Lord, you can't beat it. Anyway, go pick this up. It's such a good book. I can't recommend it any more than I have. It is well worth your time looking into it. Now, If you don't know anything about Alterna comic books, they might not be in your local comic shop. If you have or if you get a hold of an Alterna comic, they all have in the back a page that shows all the comic book shops that carry their books currently. And if you have a comic book shop and they don't carry your book, tell them to order some Alterna Comics. You can send them to alternacomics.com, or you can actually look in the previews magazine that you get your comic book shop, and it's in there. It's distributed through that. But if you don't have a comic book shop near you to support, check them out at alternacomics.com. And, you can order their books straight from them. And that's what I've done, because I don't really have a set comic book shop that I go to. But as more of the comic book shops start carrying stuff, I'll probably be buying from them, because you need to support your local comic book shop where you can. It's a tough time to be a comic shop owner, because there's a lot of factors. I'm not going to get into it, but it's tough. Every sale counts. And if you love comics, if you want to support people that are bringing comic books to people, support Alterna and support your local comic book shop, and give Blood Realm a shot. Robert Geronimo is a cool dude. Give him some money. He'll give you a cool book. And that's about it. Thank you guys, and stay tuned for more stuff in the future. Goodbye.